Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jed Lee, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so honored and so delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcast. Our guests today, Anita Marie Clark, Kathy Doherty. They are returning to the show to celebrate North Pole. We've got a problem. Before we invite our guests back into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by the power of empathy. Be the friend you've always wanted. A beautiful certified great read by our friend Ruth Maley. The Power of Empathy is the latest in Ruth's Power of series. This beautifully illustrated story gently teaches young children how to recognize their emotions and the emotions of others. That's really important. Kids learn what it means to practice empathy by witnessing real-life examples that are easy for them to understand. This book is written with easily understandable language and is perfect for adults to read aloud. This book enables kids to see themselves in the examples that Orbit shares with his friends. You know, one of the things that we've learned here on the podcast is that kids who are read to make more money. And I immediately thought as well, because they learn more words, they go to school, they do better in school, and it turns out, no, kids who are read to make more money because they're more empathetic. They're better teammates. Something to think about. Get your copy today. The Power of Empathy. Be the friend you've always wanted. Part of the Power of series by Ruth Maley. This episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Latkes for Santa Claus, the award-winning debut picture book written by Janie Emmaus and illustrated by the amazing Brian Langdo. It was a finalist in the 2022 International Book Awards. In this humorous and endearing story, blending both Christmas and Hanukkah, a little girl and her stepbrother compete to leave Santa the best treats ever. This book is a joyful, engaging read, perfect for culturally blended families. It's perfect for all families and just delightful for all readers. The playful rhymes will keep kids giggling. And check it out. The book features Janie's family's latke recipe. You find it at the end of the book. And that recipe, it's to die for. Watch for Janie's next blended holiday book, Easter Eggs and Matzo Ball, that's coming out in January of 2023. Latkes for Santa Claus, great debut picture book by Janie Emmaus. Join us right now from Canton in the great state of Ohio. Our guests are returning to the show to celebrate their brand new book. It's called North Pole, We've Got a Problem. Please welcome back to the show, Nita Marie Clark and Kathy Doherty. Hey, Nita, Kathy, how are you?
Just fine, Jed. How are you?
I'm wonderful. That first voice is the voice of the daughter and illustrator, Kathy. And Nita, how are you?
I'm doing just fine. Eager to visit with you again. Been anticipating it all day.
Well, I'm really excited, and I have an announcement. Nita and Kathy have not been made aware of this yet, but they submitted their book to our Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read panel, and I received word a couple of days ago, and I asked the panel to hold off making the announcement until I had a chance to let Kathy and Nita know that North Pole, We've Got a Problem, is our latest Reading with Your Kids Certified Great Read. Congratulations.
Awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic. That brought tears to my eyes.
Oh, wow.
I am so humbled. Thank you.
They loved our panel of kids, parents, and teachers. They just absolutely loved the book. And so folks will be able to read our entire review on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. And you'll be able to read it too, my friends. But I'm just so happy and so excited for you. You've been on the show a number of times. It's been a while there. You haven't been on since 2019. So tell us all about North Pole, We've Got a Problem.
Well, I had no intention of ever writing a book about Santa Claus, but a couple of years ago, a little over a year ago, had a knock to my front door. And it was the little kids that play in our circle, and they were alerting to me that my husband had fallen in the driveway and was suffering a medical emergency. Mm. If it wouldn't have been for those kids, I don't know what would have happened. But the one little girl hollered, "I love your books," because the neighbor lady reads the books to him. And the other little boy, D-Rob, come over and he said, "Could you write a book about Santa Claus?" And he says, "Have you ever written a book?" I said, "No." And he said, "Could you write a book about Santa Claus?" And I said, "Well, I suppose." And he said, "You need to write me a book about Santa Claus." So I came in and I wrote him a book about Santa Claus.
Wow.
I feel that for those little kids, I don't know what would have happened. I did not know my husband was outside. I thought he was napping. And to put things in perspective, in 3 weeks, my husband will be 90. I'm 85. So in 3 weeks, he'll be 90. So, at his age, having a medical emergency without instant, medical attention could have been fatal.
Yeah. And
so I owe those kids so much. So writing a book to thank them was, the least I could do.
Well, remind us how long you and your husband have been married.
68 years.
That is beautiful.
And he's still my honey.
That is wonderful.
And he still proposes at least once a week.
That is true.
I don't know how such two dumb young kids, knew that we belonged together, but we just knew.
So that's such a beautiful story, and
he proposed on the third date.
That's wonderful.
He said he would have asked me the first day, but he didn't know quite how, and he didn't have the courage. So it took him 3 days to work it out.
Well, thank goodness that he did, and thank goodness that those kids were there to let you know that he needed some help.
Yes.
That's a beautiful thing about neighbors, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So tell us.
We've lived in the same house since 1960. Wow. We raised all of our kids here, and the neighbors have changed, but we've always had great neighbors.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the story of North Pole, We've Got a Problem.
Well, it's a story about cooperation, really, and how different people have to come together with different talents and different assets to work together to solve a crisis. And Santa Claus gets a new sleigh and everything's going really well until it wasn't. And Santa Claus finds he's in this little town of Gratitude, his favorite town on his trip. He always left at the last. And when he goes to get his bag of toys, it's empty.
That is a problem.
Yes. And then it's how it all comes together. And Mrs. Claus and the elves and everybody work together to see that this little town of Gratitude ends up with a Merry Christmas.
Wow, that's beautiful.
It's just, it was just a fun story to write, and it's a story about redemption, cooperation, friendship,
kindness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
it was really fun to write.
Well, our Certified Great Read panel loved it, but I have to ask, what about the neighbor that ordered up this book?
They love it. They love it. In fact, he's taken it to school with him, and he has shown it. I gave him the first copy, and he's taken it every place he goes.
Wow.
He takes it to church with him. He takes it to school with him, and he's always showing it to everybody that his name's in the book because it's dedicated to the kids and with a special shout out to D-Rob.
Well,
and he's a sweet little boy. very, very well mannered. It's yes ma'am, no ma'am, and in today's world, he's just an exception.
Well, I'm so happy that he's in your life. I'm so happy that he inspired you to write this book. Kathy, what number book is this for you
This
folks?
is our 10th book.
10th book, 10 books. And Nita mentioned that she's 85 years young. And what people who are hearing Nita and Kathy for the first time, they are mother and daughter. But in addition to the challenges that a lot of authors face, Nita has a special challenge, Kathy. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes it difficult for her to write?
She had a reaction to some medication that caused her to have something similar to wet macular degeneration. So she is losing her eyesight. So what we are watching you on right now is a 36-inch TV screen that's hooked up to her computer. That way she can zoom it up. She zooms it to 200, and then she can write.
Well, I have to apologize, Nita, that you have to look at such a large image of my ugly head.
No, you're a handsome Irish man. That's okay. No problems there. No problems there.
My goodness, I remember the first time I saw myself up on a big movie theater screen, and it was horrifying.
It usually is. People are very, very self-critical. That's what I said. I hate to have my picture taken. I'm just very shy about doing things like this. But, sometimes you just gotta shed that and then say, to heck with it. I am what I am. And most people don't like their voices. When they hear their voices for the first time, is that me? Wow.
Yeah.
But, we all have our little things, and that's just one of them.
Yeah. Well, tell me, Nita, where do you find the inspiration? I mean, a lot of folks who are 55 have checked out and want to sit back and lie by the pool, but 85 years young, you're still going. Not only are you doing the day-to-day things and getting proposed to every day, but you're out here and your mind is active and you're creating these wonderful stories. Where's that inspiration coming from?
I just think I inherited great DNA. We've been doing the family research, and the stories that we find about my great-great-great-grandparents are just absolutely amazing. And if they could accomplish what they accomplished on rickety old ships, my life is a piece of cake. And I'm just lucky. Yeah. I'm just lucky. I shouldn't say lucky, fortunate.
Yeah.
That, I'm still, even with, the other health problems, because I did have a reaction from some other medicine that caused all 4 chambers of my heart to be working on different rhythms. They had to put in a pacemaker. So that's when we gave up our other business. And then at 79, I started to write the books. But it was something I always wanted to do. And my life is, I've got too much life left not to live it.
I agree. Kathy, I know that you never, dreamed about being an illustrator of kids' books. What's it been like on this journey with your mom?
It's been an interesting learning experience. I've been messing around with Adobe Illustrator for since 2000. So the switch over from making lawn greeting signs to illustrating books was a little bit of a learning curve, but I self-taught myself in the beginning, so, it just kind of continues along.
Yeah.
As long as I'm learning, I'm moving forward.
Well, I think that that's an important thing for all of us to remember, and not just for our own mental health, but as parents, we are our kids' first and most important teachers, and what we model for our kids is something that they're most likely to imitate. If our kids see us read, they're more likely to read. If our kids see us embracing learning as lifelong learners, then they're more likely to to do that, to become lifelong learners, to become curious people. Is that something that you've experienced, Nita?
I think our life story is a legacy that we hand down to the future generations. And that's one of the things I try to do is I want to leave a legacy that when one of my aunts, one of my descendants in maybe 50, 100 years picks up and reads my story, they'll say, wow, now that's something I want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just been so fortunate. In fact, I'm still a little sister. I have a brother that on Wednesday will be 96.
Okay.
So I want the kids to know, I started the school in a one-room schoolhouse. There was one teacher in 8 grades. And yet when I walked into the big city school of Canton, I was amongst the best readers in the class. So, it's been an interesting story, but couldn't figure out how I knew how to read. But I had taught myself to read before I started the school by using Sears and Spiegel catalogs.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with that word catalog, just imagine Amazon in a printed form.
Exactly.
And
I would look at the pictures and I would look at the words and I would look, it comes in these colors because I couldn't figure out how I knew how to read before I started the school. And then one day I'm working and I remember, we didn't have electricity. We had a radio that was battery operated, and when the batteries were as good, we could listen to the radio. But other times, the most interesting thing you could do was leaf through the catalogs. And I'm working on a reading program. I am working on a reading program. That'll be, all of our stories have been different. Mm-hmm. They've been different themes. None of them, resemble the other ones. But this next thing I'm working on is a reading program.
Wow.
And it's absolutely different than anything that I've seen anywhere.
Well, I'll be excited to hear about that. I remember leafing through the Sears catalog, and remember how big it was?
Yes, the wish book.
It was
the Christmas
huge.
Wish book.
Yeah.
And I think, the kids miss out on so much by not having that.
It definitely is a different experience. And, Kathy, you probably also remember that there was a phone book in your house at one time.
Yes. It used to be pretty thick too.
Yes.
The one they cropped off this year was, maybe a third of the size.
Yeah.
And not as wide or not as hot, tall.
Yeah.
Smaller all the way around. The life has changed, but life is still good. There's so many challenges ahead of us. But, if we all just learn to love each other and be kind to each other, there's nothing we can't do. There's no problem we can't solve. If we just take away all the chaff from the wheat and think about, all the good things that we have, this world it can still be spectacular.
I absolutely agree with you. Nita, I joke here in the podcast that I'm closing on 100 years of age. But you and your husband's and brother are like right knocking on the door.
Yeah.
What's the secret? Cause my goal is 105, and beyond, but I need, what's the secret?
Like I say, just good DNA.
Good DNA.
Okay. Just good DNA. It's what you pull. It's what you pull, what you're fortunate enough to inherit. And it's like, people being conceited because they're beautiful. Well, they didn't do anything for that. That was just a roll of the dice of how the DNA all come. But, like you can be conceited about and proud of is what you accomplish, what you are, and what you leave to others. And if I'm lucky enough to have anybody in 20, 50 years say, she left us something wonderful, I will be very, 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 very happy.
Yeah. Well, you have left us many wonderful books, and I'm so happy that both of you have become friends of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
I would like to add one more thing. You're in New Jersey, right?
No, he's in Boston.
You're in Boston. Well, we found out where you're saying about wanting to live to be 105. One of my, I believe it's my 6th great grandmother, lived to be 106 after her and her husband was, marooned off the coast of New Jersey, off the coast of what is now Sandy Hook. Her and her husband and the group swam ashore, were attacked by Indians. Her husband was left for dead. She was wounded and crawled into a burnout hollow tree, was found by other friendly Indians, nursed back from health from being half devoured and half scalped, and she went on to live to be 106, have 13 children, and she is known as the first white settler in that part of New Jersey, to the state of New Jersey.
Wow.
So 106, I'm only 85. I'm still just a kid.
What a story. What a story.
Yeah, that's what I say when I say a good DNA.
Yeah.
The Irish genes, a lot of Scots, a lot of, Welsh, a lot of people from Wales. Just good, strong DNA. I can't give myself credit for anything. I was just a lucky person.
Well, you can give yourself credit for writing fantastic books, and the latest book, North Pole, We've Got a Problem, is our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read. So I'm just delighted that you honored us with a chance of reviewing the book. Can you tell everybody where we can go to find out more about North Pole, We've Got a Problem, and all the other wonderful books that you've written?
I'll leave that up to Kathy because she does all the marketing. Since my vision is so poor, I don't do that. But,
Okay.
Kathy I could not do any of this without Kathy. There's none of this I could do. She was the best Christmas present I ever had. She was born Christmas Eve. So.
Well, Jed, you can get them all on Amazon, as well as most other online book retailers. Also, our website at Annette Reed Publishing. AnnetteReedPublishing.biz. And if you buy them from the website, they're signed by the author and by the illustrator.
Awesome. We've had a wonderful time reconnecting with our friends, Nita Marie Clark and Kathy Doherty. Be sure to check out North Pole, We've Got a Problem. It's our latest Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Nita and Kathy, thanks so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having us, and thank you for the honor of being chosen as, given the honor that you just did. Like I said, it makes me feel very humble and very, very grateful for all the good things I've gotten in life. Thank you.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Cheatham Knebel. She is the founder and driving force behind Simple Words Decodable Chapter Books. She was inspired by her son, who is challenged by dyslexia. He was really loving books, but wasn't able to find chapter books that he could really sink his teeth into and fall in love with. And so Cheatham decided that she would write those books for her son and now for the world. It's a fascinating story. You don't want to miss it. That's the next episode of the podcast. If you are out there and want to connect with us, there's so many ways you can connect with us on social media. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, @readingwithyourkids on Instagram and TikTok, @JedleyMagic on Twitter. And of course, we would love for you to visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Sign up for our free online magazine. Also, use the contact button at the top of the page to let us know what we're doing well, let us know what we could be doing better, and let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we want to start by thanking our guests, Nita Marie Clark and Kathy Doherty. I also want to thank those little guys who saved Nita's husband. Not only for saving her husband, but for inspiring her to write North Pole, We Got a Problem. Also want to thank our sponsors, Ruth Maley. Be sure to check out the 4th book in her Power of series, The Power of Empathy. Be the friend you've always wanted. And also Janie Emmaus. Be sure to check out her award-winning book, Latkes for Santa. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Jordan Saley, Skylar Strauss, Mirabella Q. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking to you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.